I can't believe John Cena just did this. After everything he said, after all those tears, after making us believe this was goodbye forever, he walks back through that curtain like nothing happened. And you know what the worst part is? We all fell for it. Every single one of us sat there, got emotional, shared those farewell posts, and John Cena just played us like a fiddle. But here's what really gets me, what actually makes my blood boil. He didn't even have the decency to let us process it. He couldn't give us 1 week, one show, one moment to appreciate what we thought was the end of an era. No, he had to come back immediately as the new general manager, grinning ear to ear like this was all some elaborate joke at our expense. And if you're sitting there thinking I'm overreacting, if you're one of those people who's about to comment that it's just entertainment and we should all calm down, then you're exactly the kind of fan that WWE loves to manipulate, because you'll defend anything they do, no matter how disrespectful it is to the audience that pays their bills. Stay with me here, because what I'm about to break down is going to change the way you look at not just John Cena, but at how WWE operates and how little they actually care about the emotional investment you put into their product. You want to know why this matters? Because in professional wrestling, we're supposed to suspend our disbelief. We're supposed to buy into the storylines, invest in the characters, and believe that when someone says their time is up, when they stand in that ring with tears in their eyes and tell us this is the final Raw appearance, that it actually means something. John Cena stood in the center of that ring, looked directly into the camera, and told every single person watching that this was it. His final Monday Night Raw, the last time we'd see him on the red brand in an active capacity. He thanked the fans. He thanked the roster. He even thanked the crew members who worked behind the scenes to make Raw happen every single week. People were crying in the audience. Grown men were wiping tears from their eyes. Social media exploded with tributes and thank you messages. The entire wrestling world stopped to acknowledge this moment. Wrestlers from other promotions posted their respect. Journalists wrote emotional pieces about John Cena's legacy. Fans who had followed his career since the beginning shared their favorite memories. And it was all a lie. A calculated, premeditated, carefully orchestrated lie designed to extract maximum emotional response from an audience that has supported John Cena through every up and down of his career. Think about the fans who bought tickets to that specific show because they thought they were witnessing history. Think about the people who rearranged their schedules, who called out of work, who spent money they maybe couldn't afford to spend, all because they believed John Cena when he said this was the final time. Those people got scammed. There's no other word for it. They paid for a farewell and instead got the setup for a storyline that nobody asked for and most people don't want. They thought they were getting closure, a beautiful ending to a legendary career on Monday Night Raw, and instead they got the beginning of what's going to be months or even years of John Cena as an authority figure, inserting himself into every storyline on the show. Think about what this does to the trust between performer and audience. John Cena has spent over 2 decades building a relationship with WWE fans. Love him or hate him, and trust me, plenty of people have done both throughout his career. He's been consistent. He's been reliable. When he says he's going to show up, he shows up. When he makes a promise, he keeps it. Or at least, that's what we all thought. But this move, this calculated deception, it changes everything. How are we supposed to believe anything any wrestler says from this point forward? When the next legend announces their retirement, when the next superstar claims they're leaving, why should we invest emotionally? John Cena just taught an entire generation of fans that your feelings don't matter, that your emotional investment is just another tool to manipulate you, just another lever they can pull to generate buzz and get people talking. He set a precedent that will poison the well for every future retirement announcement, every future farewell, every future moment that's supposed to be genuine. When The Undertaker retired, we believed it was real because he had earned that trust over 30 years. When Shawn Michaels hung up his boots after WrestleMania, we trusted that it meant something because he had always been honest with the fans. When Ric Flair said goodbye, we knew it was the end of an era because Ric Flair, for all his flaws, never played games with retirement announcements. But now we'll always be wondering if it's just another work, another angle, another way to manipulate our emotions for a cheap pop and a spike in social media engagement. John Cena didn't just lie to us. He fundamentally altered the relationship between WWE and its audience in a way that can't be undone. Every future farewell will be viewed with suspicion. Every emotional moment will be questioned. Every time a wrestler claims something is real, fans will remember the time John Cena looked us in the eyes and lied without hesitation. And let's talk about the general manager position itself, because this is where things get really problematic. Raw has been through countless authority figures over the years. We've had Mick Foley, who brought a sense of fairness and occasionally took bumps to put over the talent, who understood that his role was to facilitate great matches and help young wrestlers get over with the audience. Eric Bischoff, who was a legitimate heel authority figure that fans loved to hate, who knew how to generate heat without overshadowing the wrestlers who were actually competing. William Regal, who played the role with sophistication and made everyone around him better with his presence and his ability to add legitimacy to any segment he was in. and so many others who understood that the general manager is supposed to facilitate stories, not become the story. That the authority figure should be a supporting character who helps the main eventers look good, not someone who takes up more screen time than the actual champions. But John Cena, as general manager, this isn't about bringing fresh leadership to Monday nights. This isn't about what's best for the show or best for business. This is about John Cena refusing to step out of the spotlight even for a second. He can't wrestle full-time anymore. We get it. Father Time is undefeated, and even Superman has to acknowledge reality, eventually. His body has been through too much. The injuries have accumulated, the miles on the odometer are too high. But instead of gracefully transitioning to a legend's role, instead of showing up for special occasions and letting the next generation shine, instead of doing what every other legend has done and stepping aside when it's time, he has to insert himself into every single episode as the authority figure. He has to be the one making matches, settling disputes, and standing in the center of that ring with a microphone every single week, taking up television time that could be used to build the stars of tomorrow. This is the same John Cena who spent years telling everyone that he wanted to help elevate the next generation, that he understood his role was to make other people look good, that his legacy would be defined by who he helped on the way up. What a joke that all turned out to be. The moment he couldn't be the top guy in the ring anymore, the moment he realized he couldn't carry the company on his shoulders as an active competitor, he found a way to still be the top guy by controlling the entire show from a position of authority. It's actually brilliant in its selfishness. He gets to be on television every week without taking any bumps. He gets to be involved in every major storyline without risking injury. He gets to remain the most important person in the company without having to prove he can still go in the ring. The disrespect to the current roster is astronomical, and I don't think enough people are talking about this aspect. These men and women work their entire lives to get to WWE. They sacrifice their bodies, their relationships, their health, all for a chance to make it on Monday Night Raw. They wrestle in high school gyms and bingo halls for gas money. They drive hundreds of miles between shows and beat-up cars that barely run. They work day jobs while training at night, serving coffee or waiting tables so they can afford to pay for training and gear. They miss birthdays and anniversaries and holidays, because they're chasing the dream of performing on the biggest stage in professional wrestling. They spend years perfecting their craft, learning to work different styles, developing their character, figuring out how to connect with audiences. And now, every single segment, every single storyline, every single moment has to go through John Cena. He's not just a part of the show anymore, he is the show. Every feud will need his approval. Every championship match will be decided by him. Every controversy will be resolved with his input. The superstars who are actually wrestling every week, putting their bodies on the line, working their way up the card, and trying to establish themselves, they're all going to be secondary to whatever John Cena decides is important on any given night. Imagine being a young wrestler who just got called up from NXT, who's been dreaming their entire life of making it to Raw. And now, every single opportunity you get is going to be filtered through whether or not John Cena thinks you deserve it. That's not opportunity. That's gatekeeping. That's one man deciding the fate of an entire roster, based on his personal preferences and whatever storyline he thinks will get him the most screen time. And we all know how this goes. The wrestlers John Cena likes, the ones who fit his vision of what a superstar should be, they'll get pushed to the moon. But the ones who don't fit that mold, the ones who are different or unconventional, or who maybe remind John of someone he didn't like back in the day, they're going to struggle to get any meaningful television time. We've seen this movie before with other authority figures who played favorites, and it never ends well for the overall health of the roster. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of every time a legend refuses to let go. It reminds me of every aging superstar who can't accept that their time has passed and the business needs to move forward. It reminds me of Hulk Hogan in WCW, inserting himself into every main event even when he could barely move in the ring, politicking behind the scenes to make sure nobody got over bigger than him, killing the careers of younger wrestlers who could have been the future of the company. It reminds me of Kevin Nash and his buddies in the NWO, making sure they stayed on top even when the audience was begging for fresh faces and new stories. It reminds me of every territory in wrestling history where the promoter's son got pushed to the moon, regardless of talent or ability, where nepotism and ego destroyed what could have been thriving businesses. Professional wrestling has always had this problem. The guys who are on top never want to come down. They never want to admit that someone else might be better, that someone else might deserve the spotlight, that the audience might actually want to see something new, instead of the same faces doing the same things for the 30th year in a row. It's an ego thing. It's an identity thing. These wrestlers spent so many years being the most important person in the company that they don't know how to function any other way. Their entire sense of self-worth is tied up in being the guy. And when it's time to stop being the guy, they can't handle it psychologically. And John Cena, for all his talk about hustle, loyalty, and respect, for all his claims about wanting to help the next generation, for all the interviews where he said he understood the importance of passing the torch, he just proved that when push comes to shove, it's all about him. It's always been about him, and it always will be about him, the 15-time world champion, the face of WWE for over a decade. The man who supposedly represents everything good about professional wrestling can't even step aside gracefully when his body tells him it's time. Instead, he has to create a new role for himself that guarantees he'll be on television every single week, whether we want him there or not. He has to make sure that even in retirement from active competition, he's still more important than everyone else on the roster. The timing makes it even worse. And this is what really drives me crazy about the whole situation. WWE is in the middle of a renaissance right now. The product has been incredibly strong lately. New stars are emerging left and right. Longtime performers who spent years in the mid-card are finally getting the recognition they deserve and the opportunities they should have gotten years ago. The shows have been consistently entertaining without relying on part-timers and legends to carry the load every single week. The ratings are stable, the live crowds are hot, and there's genuine excitement about the future of the company for the first time in years. People are actually talking positively about WWE. Again, the discourse isn't all negative. There's optimism. There's hope that maybe, just maybe, the company has finally figured out how to build new stars while respecting the intelligence of the audience. And right when it seems like WWE is ready to fully commit to its future. Right when it looks like management finally understands that you can't build tomorrow's stars. If yesterday's stars never leave, here comes John Cena, inserting himself right back into the center of everything. Not as a special attraction that we're excited to see once in a while. Not as an occasional appearance that adds prestige to a paper, but as a permanent fixture who will be on our screens every single week, whether we want him there or not. He couldn't let Raw have even one episode to establish its new identity. He couldn't give the current roster even one show to breathe without a legend overshadowing them. He had to make sure that the first thing people think about when they think about Monday Night Raw is John Cena. Just like it's always been, and just like he apparently wants it to always be. It's selfish, it's short-sighted, and it's going to hurt the long-term health of the brand. Because instead of building new stars who can carry the company for the next decade, we're going to spend the next year or two focused on whatever John Cena wants to do as general manager. Let's be real about what this means for storytelling, because I haven't even gotten into how bad this is going to be from a creative standpoint. General managers' storylines are almost always the worst part of any wrestling show. They take time away from actual wrestling. They involve endless talking segments where authority figures abuse their power for no logical reason. They create artificial obstacles that could be solved with basic human communication but instead spiral into months-long feuds that nobody cares about. We've seen this story 1,000 times. The heel wrestler demands a title shot. The general manager says no for some arbitrary reason. The heel attacks the general manager or threatens them somehow. This goes on for weeks and weeks with endless confrontations that eat up 20 minutes of television time per episode. And eventually it culminates in some kind of stipulation match that could have happened in week 1 if everyone just acted like reasonable adults. And now we're going to get John Cena doing all of this. Except it's going to be even more prominent because it's John Cena, and everything has to be bigger and more dramatic when he's involved. Every decision will be a big deal that requires multiple camera angles and dramatic music. Every announcement will require a 10-minute speech about respect and opportunity and doing what's right for business. Speeches that sound meaningful but ultimately say nothing of substance. Every conflict will somehow revolve around whether or not John Cena thinks someone deserves an opportunity, which will inevitably lead to accusations of favoritism and bias. Which will lead to more confrontations, more talking segments, more time taken away from the people who actually wrestle for a living. This is going to dominate Raw for months, maybe even years. And there's nothing anyone can do about it because John Cena is untouchable. He's the golden boy who can do no wrong in WWE's eyes. The company man who always does what he's told. The perfect corporate spokesperson who will never rock the boat or cause problems backstage. He's too valuable to the company's brand and they're outside business interests for anyone to tell him no or suggest that maybe this isn't the best direction for the show.